Hi sewists and aspiring sewists, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's tutorial we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful crop varsity jacket. So if this looks like what you're interested in, then let's dive into the main tutorial video. So for this tutorial, these are the basic materials we're going to be needing. We're going to be needing this design because this is what I'm going to be customizing on the varsity jacket. I'm also going to be needing this stretchy elastic band. I have 2 pieces here and I got this for 500 naira each. Next, we're also going to be making use of this high quality cotton fleece fabric. This is also known as towel back fabric. This can be used for your hoodies, your sweatshirt as well. Also, since I'm working with a medium size, this is the standard measurement we're going to be using for this tutorial. So we no further delay, let's get right into it. So the first thing you want to do is to lay your front body just as you can see in this video, and I already gone ahead to lay my button allowance, which was about 2.5 inches. Now my length is 18 inches, and because I'm going to be adding a band, I'm going to shorten it to 16 inches. So what I'm going to mark here will be 16 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to mark 16 inches points on different angles. Next, I'm going to mark my button allowance. So for my button allowance, I am using 1 inch. You can decide to use 0.75 or 0.5 depending on what size you are, but for me I decided to use 1 inch just because I prefer that. So from that point of my button allowance, I'm going to measure 9 inches, which is my shoulder line measurement. Now for my chest line, I have 16 inches here. I'm going to divide that into 2, and that's going to give me 8 inches. So I'm going to come down here to measure 8 inches. Then from this point, I'm going to come down by 8.5, and this is going to serve as my armhole measurement. So once I have this marked, I'm going to connect my lines together. Next, I'm going to measure my body. So for my body measurement, I have 44 inches here, and I'm going to divide it into 4, and that's going to give me 11 inches. So I'm going to add ½ inch allowance for seam, and that's going to be 11.5. So I'm going to mark 11.5 here. Now, do not forget that whatever measurements you're going to be taking here, you're going to be measuring it from the 1 inch allowance you left for your button allowance. So here, I'm going to measure my neck width. So for my neck width, I'm going to be making use of 2.5 inches. And for my neck depth, I'm going to come down by 3.5 inches. So I'm going to measure 3.5 inches here. So once I'm done marking this point, I'm going to give my neckline a curvy shape. So I can do this with my French curve, but I'm using my free hand at this point. After this, the next thing to do will be to cut the front bodies. Moving on, the next thing I did was to place my front bodies on my back bodies, and I also left out my 1 inch allowance, which is serving as my button allowance. So the next thing I'm going to be doing here now will be to trace out what I have on my front bodies. So for my back neckline, I'm going to be measuring 2.5 inches as my neckline width, which was also what I measured for my front bodies. Also for my neckline depth, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch, and I'm going to mark this 1 inch point. So once I have that marked out, I'm going to form a curve around my neckline. So I'm going to cut what I have here. Next thing I'm going to do here is to measure my sleeve. So for my sleeve, I have 22 inches here. I'm going to go ahead to mark 22 inches. Now this 22 inches actually includes my seam allowance. So eventually by the time I'm done sewing, I should have 21 inches here, and I'm going to be adding that to my band measurement as well. So for my round sleeve, I calculated 16 inches divided by 2, that gave me 8 inches, and I added ½ inch allowance, which gave me 8.5. Now I'm going to come down by 3 inches as we all know. Then I'm going to match this line to meet that point. Then the next thing I'm going to do will be to measure my down sleeve. So for my down sleeve here, I have 12 inches. So 12 inches divided by 2, that's going to give me 6 inches. And I'm going to add ½ inch allowance, that's going to give me 6.5. So I'm going to go ahead to measure my 6.5 here. So once I have this marked, I'm going to merge my lines together, and I'm also going to be cutting what I have here. Next, I'm going to go ahead to cut my band extension. So for this, I'm going to be measuring 2.5 as my band extension width, while for the length, I'm also going to be measuring 5 inches. While measuring this, also make sure that the part that is forming the width of your extension is the stretchy part. So once I have this marked out, I'm going to go ahead to cut. So we need 2 pieces of this, and that is why we have it in pair. So after cutting, here is what we have. So the next thing I'm going to be cutting will be the band. So this is the band that is going to be coming along with the extension. Now for each band, we have 5 inches as the length of each band, and when we double this unfold, it is going to give us 2.5 inches. So remember, we left out 2 inches from our actual length measurement. So by the time we're going to be adding this 2.5 inches, we're going to have exactly 18 inches, which is our actual full length measurement. So for my wristband, I'm going to measure 7 inches. So we have 2 sleeves and we're going to be working with 2 wristbands. So what I'm cutting here is 2 pieces of my wristband. So in case you're wondering how this is going to come out, please just keep watching this video. So this is how we are going to be fixing this, so you can have an idea of what we are trying to achieve here. Next, we're also going to be needing this for our neckline band. So we can't decide what circumference this is going to be, so let's just leave that till when we are done sewing our jacket. This is also going to be serving as the waistband for our jacket. So with no further delay, let's get right into the sewing process. So on my button allowance, I'm just going ahead to apply my stay, leaving out 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to weave on this 1/2 inch allowance. So after weaving on both allowance, this is what we have. So this is how it is actually looking like. Next, I'm going to do is to sew on my shoulder line. So I'm going to place my back bodies like this, then place my front bodies also like this, and I'm going to be sewing on that shoulder line. I'm also going to repeat the same process on the other shoulder line as well. So from this point here, I'm going to make a center point around my armhole, and I'm going to be marking the center point of my armhole. I'm also going to repeat the same thing on the other armhole as well. After that, I'm going to spread out my armhole like this, and I'm going to be adding my sleeve to this part of my armhole. So at this point, you want to be sure that your sleeve is fitting into the armhole, and as you can see, it is fitting into the armhole. So you can decide to pin it at this point, but I'm going to go ahead to sew mine like this. I'm also going to repeat the same process on the other sleeve as well. So after attaching my sleeve to my armhole, this is the final outlook. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now will be to join the sides of my jacket. So to achieve this, I'm going to start my joining from my sleeve area, just as you can see me illustrate in this video, and I'm going to align my armhole area together to make sure that it is connected together. So I'm going to pick my sewing from here, and I'm going to be sewing downward. I'm also going to repeat the same process on the other side as well. So next, I'm going to be joining my wristband. So we have 2 wristbands here, and I'm going to go ahead to join both wristbands. So after joining the 2 wristbands, you're going to be flipping each of the wristband just like I'm doing here. Also make sure that the joinings are fitting into each other. So once you have this done, then you are good to go. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now will be to attach this to my sleeve. So I'm going to be placing this inside my sleeve, just as you can see me illustrate here. Now you can see that it's very stretched, so it's going to fit into what I have here. So I'm going to make sure that I'm placing the joining of my wristband towards the joining of my sleeve. So I'm going to make sure that the joinings are aligning towards that. So once I have that figured out, I'm going to go ahead to weave this round. So here's the final outlook of what I just did. So if you've been following this video and you're not getting this exact result, then something is wrong somewhere. So you have to go back to watch the video again. So the next thing I'm going to do now will be to repeat the same thing on the other sleeve as well. Next, I'm going to connect my extension with my waistband, and I'm going to sew a straight line on this part. Again, I'm going to flip my extension like this, and I'm going to be sewing on this part of my extension. Next, I'm going to turn it to the right side, just as you can see me illustrate right here. So at this point, you can use your scissors to flatten the surface. So this is what we have after that. So to determine what will be enough for my waistband, I'm going to place my waistband here at the starting point, and I'm going to be stretching it towards the other end of my waist. So whatever I have at this point will be the standard measurement I'm going to be using for my waistband. So I'm going to leave 2 inches before the notch part, and I'm going to cut whatever I have here. So at this point, I'm going to be adding the other extension to my waistband. Next thing I'm going to be doing from here is to make sure that the button allowance I left is actually equal and not alternating each other. So once I am sure of this and I have it figured out, the next thing I'm going to do will be to attach my waistband to my bodies. So I'm going to do this by starting from the notch part of my button allowance. So while I apply this, I'm going to be stretching my band towards the other notch point of my button allowance as well. So after sewing, here is what we have. So the next thing I'm going to be attaching will be my neckline band. So what I have here is about 7 inches, which is also fitting into my neckline. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now will be to make a curve around my neckline band. So I'm going to be folding my neckline like this, and I'm also going to double fold it, just as you can see me illustrate in this video. After that, I'm going to be making a curve around this part of my neckline band. I'm also going to be reducing the width of my neckline band because it is going to be serving as a collar around my neckline. Next, I'm going to mark the center point of my shoulder line. I'm going to notch that part of my shoulder line. I'm also going to be notching the center point of my collar as well. Now, to avoid any form of alternation, I'm going to pin the center point of my neckline band like this. Then I'm going to stretch it towards the starting point. So from here, I'm going to measure ½ inch allowance. So I'm going to go by measuring ½ inch here, and I'm going to place my band at the starting point after this at ½ inch. So I'm going to flip my allowance like this as well, and I'm going to be starting my sewing from here. So you can decide to pin it at this point to avoid any alternation, but I'm going to go ahead to sew mine from here. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to turn over my allowance like this, and guys, this is the final result of what we have. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now will be to sew on my neckline. I'm going to be sewing on my neckline, and I'm also going to come down to sew on my button allowance and also around my waistband. So after sewing, this is what it looks like. Actually, there is no light. I had to operate on Jen, so there's little to what I can do as regards ironing. And to everyone who is always asking, I don't have it pressing machine, how can I go about this? Can I use my iron? Yes, you can use it, because for this particular jacket here, I actually made use of my local iron. Although for me, there's little to what I could do with my local iron, but I just wanted to just come up with this content for you guys. So after ironing, this is what it looks like. This is the final outlook of my jacket, and the next thing I'm going to be doing now will be to attach my button to this. So I won't be showing that because I am going to be doing that outside. So you see, today's tutorial is specially dedicated to my 6,000+ subscribers. This is me saying thank you so much for always watching my videos. And if you're a new subscriber, this is me saying welcome to my YouTube channel. You definitely love it here. And if you're watching this video and you're yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel, this is me saying, what are you waiting for? Please kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment, and share. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.